Hey guys, welcome back. This is Joel, and I'm going to talk about another security appliance, which is called the email security appliance. It's the ESA, right? Cisco ESA. So, ESA. Before we talk about ESA, let's just talk about the email server, right? What does an email server do? There are like two functionalities. The first one being you have to send and receive the emails, and that's taken care by the SMTP protocol. The other important functionality is basically you need to allow the clients to retrieve the emails from the server, and that's done using one of the protocols, which is either POP or IMAP, right? So these are a couple of very important functionalities of my email server. Okay, so I think you guys would have already read a little about ESA. So ESA basically, where does ESA actually fit in? So ESA acts as actually the SMTP server, which in turn is used for sending and receiving the emails, right? So if you see this topology here, a very simple topology, I have I could call this as an organization, a different company, which is abc.com, and I have another company which is called bits.in, right? And if you see here, I have a router here for routing the traffic from this network. This network is 192.1.20.60 and this is 192.168.100.0, right? Two different networks, and this is an email server, this is an email server. The one above is the email server of abc.com, and the second one is the email server of my bits.in, right? And along with the email server, it also has the client, right? So the client which I'm using, I'm going to show you in a minute, but I also have the client, everything on the single VM. So this is just one VM, and this is just another VM, and you need to also have a DNS server, right? Because that's very important when a email communication happens. So when you have to send an email from, let's say, bits.in to abc.com, the first thing you have to do is you have to do a DNS resolution to find the MX record and try to find the IP address of the SMTP server, right, of the other side. And once you have that information, only then you will be able to send an email, draft it. I mean, you will be able to send the email across the network, right? So DNS server plays an important role, and that's why I have created one DNS server which will serve both the purposes for both my email servers. So we have the whole topology is all about having two different email domains, I would say. One is the bits.in and one is abc.com, and abc.com is basically simulating my outside network, or basically the outside email address, right? So what I'm very interested now is to secure my organization, which is bits.in, and I'm going to secure it using the ESA, right? So what I will be doing throughout the exercises, we will be trying to send the email from the from bits.in, and we will be sending the email. When you send the email, normally if there was no ESA, the email would be sent to the SMTP server, and from the SMTP server it will be sent across the network. But here what we will try to do is the email will be first sent to ESA, it will be verified, and only then it will be sent out to out through the network. Even when an email is received from the outside network, instead of the email directly going inside my bits.in, it will first go to ESA, and from there it will be sent to bits.in, right? So yeah, so that is the whole thing which we are trying to do now. And let's see the topology which we have here. So this is how I've constructed it on GNS3, right? So I have my abc.com and my bits.in as well as the ESA, everything as a separate VMs, and I have just connected them on my ESA using the clouds, and R1 is the router, right? So you can see my Windows servers here, right? So let me show you that, right? So this is basically my bits.in, and this is going to be my abc.com, right? Let me just put this on the left. So abc.com is basically my outside network, right, the outside email server, and bits.in is my inside email server. And the ESA, I have just installed it. I mean, I have not done any configuration, and right now it's just a basic setup, which means if I send an email from abc.com to my bits.in or vice versa, the email would go, right? So I will show you that. So let me write an email. So I have created accounts here, right? So you can see the different accounts. One is the TEDS at abc.com, and the other one is John S at abc.com. So I'm using Thunderbird as my client, right? Let me also show you another important configuration. which is going to be my the email servers, right? How I have set it up. So what you see on the screen, this is just the client, but I'm using a very simple open source kind of email server, stripped down version called as a HMail server, right? So this is how it looks. You can set it up as well, right? So you can set it up as well. So this is the HMail server, and these are the domains, right? So okay, maybe I will show you the other one. Okay, these are the three over here, and let me also just open up the HMail server over here. Give me a minute, I think it should be up. Okay, and this is my DNS. Yeah, all right, great. So this is basically my email server, which is on the ABC side. You can see the ABC side. I just have a abc.com, and I have two accounts set up. One is the John S and Ted S, and I'm basically using the same two accounts on my client as well, right? So this is my outside email server, basically this one, right? This one, the outside one. I have also created something very similar on the inside as well. So you can see on the inside I have a domain called bits.in, and I have different accounts associated with it, and this is my client, right? So this is my client. One is Tom S at bits.in, another one is JNS at bits.in. Right? Does it work? Right, so this is very simple, which means if I send an email, let me send an email from outside to inside now, and let me show you how it works. So this is my email. Let's create an email. Let it send it to tom s at bits.in. So I'm basically sending from outside to inside. I'm gonna send an email called hey Tom, right? I'm gonna write maybe outside to inside. I'm just trying to test if the basic email functionality is working before we introduce ESA, right? So let me send, right? The email got sent, right? It is in the sent box over here. Now if I come down to my the other email server, which is the bits.in, I need to receive the email here. You can see the email, it just came down, right? It came. Now I can just read the email as well, right? So the whole email functionality is working, right? So now what are we supposed to do next? If you want, I can actually show you the reply part as well. So let me do the reply part, which means the email would go from inside to outside now, right? Here you go. So the email got sent. Let's wait on this screen until we get the email. Yeah, so you see the email, we received it just now. So what I want to tell is we have the whole, the email functionality working here, and now let's go down and introduce what we intend to study today, being the ESA. Okay, so like I said, if you look at the diagram, my ESA will basically end up on the inside of the network, and it's going to act as my SMTP server. Do you get it? It's going to act as my SMTP server. So SMTP server is actually bundled here right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this piece into just the email part. I'm going to give all the SMTP responsibilities to my ESA now, right? So that's something which we'll end up doing, right? So how do we start with? So we will go to the DNS server first. Let's go down here. Let's open DNS. This is my DNS. So let's go to DNS. Let's go to, I'm not going to do any changes to ABC because that's the outside network. I'm just going to do some changes to my inside, right? So I go down here, and on the SMTP side we will edit this entry, because this is 192.168.100.47. we will edit this to the IP address of my ESA, right? So let's go down here. The ESA is going to have an IP address of .62. So I'm gonna apply, I'm gonna put it as OK, right? So that's your, so we have done this, right? So which means now the SMTP server has been switched to the ESA. And let me actually flush the DNS once. So let me do that. ipconfig/flush DNS. There you go. The IP addresses have been flushed, and yeah, this looks good, right? So that was the first step. There is one more thing which we have to do. We will set up my HMail server. On the HMail server we will set up a relay as well, right? So basically yeah, so this configuration which we did just now on the DNS server basically enables whenever we are sending an email outside the network, right, it will now start picking up this IP. I mean, whenever we have an email incoming or coming inside the network, the SMTP server which is going to be used is this one. As a result, the email is first going to come to my ESA, and then it will be forwarded to the inside network, right, or to the email server. So we have taken care of the incoming path, but if an email has to go outside, right, if an email has to go outside, first it has to be checked again by the ESA, and that is why we use the concept of SMTP server relays. So we go down to the HMail server, we go to protocols. You can select the protocol which is going to be SMTP here, delivery of email, and here we are going to put the IP address of 192.168.100.52. so even if a mail is sent from this server, which is my the inside network, that's a bits.in, it will first be sent to the ESA, and then it's going to go out, right? So a check is going to be done. I'm going to save this. Okay, so there you go, that is done. Now let's we have done all the configuration which is needed from this side. Now the only thing which is needed is we have to start configuring my ESA, right, the basic setup of ESA. So we will go down and start doing that, right? You can see this is the ESA screen. The default login username is admin, password is iron port, right? So let's put that, right? That looks good. What do we do next? So we have to start doing the interface configuration, right? So let's do interface config. Let's start with editing. Let's click on edit, and the interface number is 1. IP interface name, which is let's just keep it blank. It's asking me, do I want to configure IPv4 address? Hell yeah, I want to do that. I'm going to configure the address as 192.168.100 and .62. We decided earlier, didn't we? So we put that. The mask is going to be 255.0. Would you like to configure IPv6? No. And I can go to the next. Do I want a host name? Yeah, I can put a host name as esa.bits.in. Do you want to enable SSH? Sure, I'll put that. FTP, probably yes as well. If I want to do any licensing thing, I'll have it. I'm going to put a no over there. Do you want to enable HTTP? Yes. Okay, HTTPS. Okay, and let's all keep this default. Do you want to enable RSA? Probably keep it as default. Should keep this as default. Yeah. So we have done all the basic configuration, but I think you guys know that if anything has to be stored or saved in my ESA, I need to hit the commit. So there you go. Yeah, so it's starting to commit now. Beautiful. Now once that is done, we are done with configuring our ESA. I have to just go to my browser, punch in the IP address, which is 192.168.100.62, and there you go, I have my access. Let's put iron port right? So yeah, so we have this, which looks pretty good. Now let's start configuring, right? The first step in configuring the ESA is you need to go to System Setup Wizard, right? So you go here and put the host name as esa.bits.in. Email alerts, probably I don't want to do that. Deliver scheduled reports, not needed, right? I think password. Okay, so let's put password of Cisco 123. You'll have to change the password, so I'm changing it to Cisco 123, and that should be good. Let's go to next. Okay, email address is compulsory, so let's put some random email address, probably test at bits.in, should be fine. Alright, so next, the IPv4 gateway. The gateway is going to be basically this router, which is this IP address, which is .1, right? This one, 192.168.100.1. So let's do that. Sorry, let's put this here. So it's going to be, okay, 192.168.100.1, and the IPv6 gateway is not required. DNS server is very important. What is a DNS server? It's going to be 192.168.100.47. I mean, it's the DNS server is basically on the same box as the bits.in, right? So I'm using the same box, so the DNS is also on the same box. So the DNS is configured. Next, so we are going to not use the data 1 interface and data 2. Instead, we are going to use just the management interface. The interface is typically configured for system administration. IPv4 address is 192.168.100.62/24. Right, so that's the IP address of the management interface. The host name is also configured, right? And we are going to do this. We are going to accept the incoming mail, and we are going to define the domain which the ESA is going to use. It's going to be bits.in, and the destination is 192.168.100.47, right? So that's the email server. Okay, once we are done with that, let's move to the next step, which is okay, so here, what do we do here? Yeah, I think we are going to retain everything of this to be default. So this is basically what, it basically tells you the whole process of ESA, how it does, right? First, you're going to check some reputation, sender based reputation filters. These are basically a list of email IDs which are which create a lot of spam on the internet, right? So basically you're checking the sender's email address against this particular list and so on. So you check for spamming, and then you do antivirus scanning as well. Followed by that, you check for malware and the virus outbreak filters. And the last part is where you can put some custom policies, which we are going to see as well. So once you do this, you go to the next, right? You have all of this here. We'll do install this configuration. Right, Active Directory Wizard, I don't want that. I'm gonna press cancel over here, and there you go. So the configuration is basically done. Okay, so we will now be able to send emails, right? So let's try that. So we will now be able to send an email from inside to outside, right? Give me a minute. Let's I'll just try to find the console. I think I lost the access. Okay, great. So now let's see this. What do we do next? Let's send an email from outside to inside and see if it is going in, right? So let's do that, which means yeah, we could test that. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll probably enable logging. So we will go to my ESA because we want to check if the email is actually coming to the ESA. So what you're trying to do is sending an email from ABC to bits.in, but we intend to send it through ESA and then to bits.in, right? So we want to check if that is happening. So we will go to my ESA and we will create my let's create tail, and let's create the logging, right? So this is my logging part. So let's clear the screen and keep it this way. Okay, there are a lot of error messages. Let's now go to abc.com, and this is my abc.com. Let's create a new message, and the new message is going to be to my Tom. Okay, let's send a message to Tom, right? And the message is basically going to be outside to inside via ESA, right? So that's the email which I'm sending, outside to inside via ESA, right? Okay, let's clear the logs again. So let's clear all of this. I just want to show you guys the whole thing which creates. Yeah, so this is good. So let me now press the send button. Yeah, the send is done, and we should start seeing some logs here if the email has gone via the SM through the ESA, right? Yeah, so you can see there will be a few more logs coming in. Let's wait for a minute. It's little it takes a bit of time for the emails to come in. Yeah, so you can see the email has actually come into my bits. I'm just trying to figure out, did it actually use the ESA or did it directly come? Give me a minute. I have a feeling it did not use the ESA, or did it use? Oh, I think it did over here. The logs basically are pretty slow, so it comes a little slow. I think it did. To verify, we can do it once again, and then let's send the same mail again, with something like outside to inside, probably test. Okay, version 2, right? Let's call this as version 2, and let's create the logs here. Before sending, let me just verify if the DNS everything is right. So the DNS is supposed to be on this. The DNS of the bits.com has been changed to 192.168.100.62, which looks fine. And let me just flush the DNS entries on this as well, which means ipconfig slash flush DNS. Okay, so that's done. Right, so this is my abc.com, and let me send the email again to it's from ABC and it's going 2 bits. Let's send this email. And let's wait for the logs to show up. You can see the logs coming up now. Let's wait for a minute. Okay, so you can see the logs. I'm still trying to figure out the from address and to address on this. Yeah, you can see that. So the email has come from Ted. You can see the Ted at ABC, and you can also see Tom at ABC, right? So the email has actually passed in through the ESA. Okay. Now let's do the reverse. What if you send an email from the bits dot into, let's actually send an email from the inside to outside network, but using a different account, which is Jane. Let's try sending to Ted ABC, and I'm gonna say inside to outside, right? Let's see if this goes right. Before sending it, let's get the logs all up here. Let's clear the screen. That looks good. So if I send this email, it's trying to send. You can see the logs here. Rejected. You can see the last line here, which says the email from Jane to Ted was rejected, right? The reason being, if an email has to go from inside to outside, we need to configure certain policies, right? And we have to do that now. So this was rejected. So let's try to configure it and then send the email once again. So how do we do that? We will go to mail policies here and add a policy. We'll call this as relayed, and let's relay this, because we have used our ESA as a relay agent, but we have not actually done the relay configuration on the ESA side, right? So we are doing that. So I have created a relay policy, but I need to use the HAT overview to, we need to add this particular policy as well. Go to add senders group. Let's call this as probably relay list. Let's increase the order to probably 1. Then we are going to select the policy which is relayed, submit, and the address is 192.168.100.47, which is my email server. There you go. I'm going to submit this, and I'm going to commit this, right? There you go. Looks good. Now what we'll do is, let's go back and try to send the same email again. So I'm sending it from bits to ABC, right? So it should come here. I probably should have flushed the DNS once. Let's see if this doesn't work. Let me flush it and then try it again. So you can see here there is a relay agent relay list match being shown on the logs, the last line 192.168.100.47, right? So the delivery should have happened now. So you can see it has sent the email. Now let's go and see if it was received. Yeah, you can see here the email got received, right? So because of that policy, we are now able to even send emails from inside to outside, which is pretty cool. Now what do we do next? Where do we go from here? We have to do, let's do some filtering, right? Both on the inside and the outside part, right? That's really fun. So let's start with doing some inside filtering, right? On the inside, inbound, or basically the emails which come, right? Yeah, right, inside content filtering. So how do we do that? We will go down to you have something called incoming content filters, right? We will add a filter, and let's create a name. Let's call this as probably custom incoming, right? And let's add an condition. So what condition? So let's say if we have a email which has a keyword like bomb, right? We want to drop this particular email, right? Imagine if you want to do that. So let's click an OK to that. Let's add another condition, which is message size. If it is greater than probably 5 MB, right? Or yeah, 50 million bytes, we are going to add that as well as another condition. You can add such conditions, right? we can also add something like a reputation score. There is like reputation score here, and I think yeah, it should be somewhere here, right? If it is, let's say, less than, if the reputation score for particular email is less than probably 0, right, let's add that also as part of the conditions. So once we have added all these conditions, what do you want to do with this? So we can probably drop all these emails. So we create a final action called as drop, and we drop it, right? We have dropped it. Along with dropping, how about we also add a notify option, which means if your email is getting dropped, that's better to have a notify option so that the sender knows that this email has been dropped. So there's a notify option here. I can click on sender, which means the sender will get a email, or will get an email saying that it has been dropped, right? So I'm going to put it as message not allowed, or let's say message dropped, right? And yeah, so let's press an OK here. Right, so this is mainly for the incoming whatever we have done. So let's submit this, and let's see if it is working. Right, so we just created a filter just now. This will not just work. What we'll have to do next is we have to again go back to the HAT overview. I mean, my bad, not HAT overview. We'll have to go down to the incoming mail policies. Right, you go down to incoming mail policies. So we will add a policy here. Right, let's call this as incoming for now. Right, and here we're going to add a user. It's going to be like any sender or any recipient for now, which is pretty good. Let's keep that as it is. That's good. And what do we do next? Click on submit. Right, you can see the incoming policy here. Let's change the content filters. We will select the content filter which we just now created here. This is the custom incoming which we created. Let's enable this, submit, and let's commit this. Right, so this is committing. So now if you get an email from outside to inside with the keyword of bomb, let's see what happens. Okay, so that looks good. So it has been committed, which means I can go back to my abc.com now, which is over here, and send an email to, let's create an email from John this time. Right, let's give this guy some work. So let's go to johns@abc.com. From there we're going to send an email to probably Tom S@bits, right, from outside to inside. Let's call this as custom incoming. Sorry, that's the toolbar, control X. So it's called as custom incoming, and let's put a word called as bomb over here. Right, so this is the keyword, and when I hit a send over here, do you think that email is going to come here? I have just sent it. Should not come ideally because we have the keyword being matched. So it will take some time, and also I need to get a notification over here saying that the message was not delivered. Right, let's look at the logs. So the logs are here. Let's check if the configuration was right. So we have the custom incoming over here, and that's pretty much good. the incoming filters. This is the filter. Just checking. So we have the body. Yeah, so this is the body, and I've decided to notify at the same time drop the mail, right? So yeah, so you can see your mail, as we have received the mail already saying that the mail which I actually sent, right, this was the one which I actually sent with a keyword of bomb, and it got rejected, right? Basically the ESA, it passed through the ESA, and the ESA rejected this email, and it was not allowed to come inside the network. And I also got notified, right? So I also got notified. I got an email saying that the message was dropped. And why did I get this notification? Because I have put a policy on my ESA over here saying that I have to be notified, and then the email has to be dropped, right? So that was basically the incoming part. Now let's also try something to do on the lines of outgoing, right? So for outgoing, again the same concept. You go to outgoing message content filters, you create a filter over here, and you can create something like outgoing, custom outgoing, right? Same like earlier. And let's add a condition. Imagine you don't want people to send their credit card numbers, right? So then you can do that as well. I think that's probably over here. Let me see. Yeah, over here. So if it contains like a credit card number, right? So we don't, imagine you don't want an email to be sent out if it has a credit card number, so you can put this as a condition. Okay. And probably you can add an action saying that notify again, probably to the sender, again the same message dropped, right? You can do this. There are a lot of other options as well which you can browse and you can try to play around as well. And I think I'll probably add another option of dropping it, right? So that is how you do this, right? You can do the policies both on the incoming side and the outgoing. So then you go and submit this. So once you have created like a filter, the filter will not work on its own. The next step would be to add this filter to the policy, right? So for that we will so for that what we'll do is we'll go down here, we'll go down to outgoing mail policies. Okay, sorry, I think there was an issue here, so my bad, sorry. So I think this did not get created the right way, so let's create it once again. Custom outgoing. I think there was an error here. You're not supposed to have that. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. This is submit. Okay, so now we will go down to the outgoing mail policies, and let's go to content filters. My bad. Okay, we'll have to create a policy here, so let's do a cancel. Let's create a policy, add policy, and let's call this as probably outgoing. Right, and let's add the user. The user is going to be the default, any sender, any recipient, and you're going to submit this. Looks good. Now we are going to take up your content filters here, right? Select this part, this is good, select that and submit. Custom outgoing. Okay, maybe commit the changes as well. Commit changes, and there you go. So we have done that. So we have created policies on the outgoing as well. So now if you send an email from the outside of the net, from inside network to outside with the credit card number, that email also will get blocked or it gets dropped and you get a notification, right? So that is all which I wanted to cover. What we did was we kind of installed ESA right? We let me recap whatever we did, right? So we kind of initialized and installed ESA, then we integrated the email servers, the DNS basically, right? The whole setup, right? We basically built the whole topology from ground up, right? This one. So we have we put in the DNS server, we put in the email servers on both the sides for both the organizations, and then we also put in the ESA, and we configured the mail flow policies, because if you want to allow, or if you want all the emails to flow um, through your ESA, right, the incoming part, that is taken care in the system wizard itself, right? When I say system wizard, it's basically this one, right? It is taken care when you're configuring this part, right? System setup wizard. But what if you want to configure the emails which are going out of the organization, right, and you want it to go through ESA, right? So that configuration we have to do using mail flow policies, and we did that as well. So once that was done, once you have established that all the mails are coming into the organization, going out of the organization through ESA, the next step is to use filters, mail filters. So we did incoming mail filters and we did outgoing mail filters. On the incoming side, what we did was we actually used a policy to define or check if an email has a keyword of bomb, and if it has a keyword of bomb, then that email is going to be dropped, and a notification will be sent to the sender as well. And similar kind of a policy can also be set up from the outgoing perspective, which means if an email is going out, if you want certain things to be checked on that email, you can define this custom policies there as well, right? So that was the whole thing which we did in this ESA session. Do tune in and watch out for videos on new tech. Bye.